Okay, so we are so pumped about our guest today. If you listened to our podcast last week, you heard our interview with Pup Rookie from the puppy community. And I know dogs and cats don't always get along, but that's why we put them on separate interviews. So today we are very fortunate to be talking to a real-life furry. Joining us on the podcast is Khord Kitty. Hey, Khord Kitty! Khord Kitty is the host of his very own podcast, actually. Khord, what is the name of your podcast?
It's called The Fur's Greatest Podcast in the World!
And it sure is. Well, after this one. But we're biased.
I didn't think anyone could be as theatrical as you, Jesse, until I met Khord Kitty here.
Look at those green eyes, too. I'm jealous.
I think there's two different colored eyes. We got one blue, one green.
Wow. Khord Kitty, I have never talked to a real life furry. This is, I think, of all these sort of, and I was going to call them fetish communities, and that's a whole conversation we're about to get into, but I think furry is maybe the most mainstream of all these subcultures because it's been on TV recently. So I'm really excited to be able to ask you more about furry life.
For sure. I go all out. I've been to 50 furry cons, and I'm meow, and all the people I talk to, they're furries, so I am knee deep in the furrydom, that's for sure.
So for very vanilla people like Jesse and I think our first introduction to furry culture was on an episode, was it CSI?
Yes,
It was an episode of CSI. And that's when I was introduced, and I was like, you know what? I need to learn more about this. So for those vanilla people like us, can you explain furry culture more in depth for people? Try to explain where it originated and how you got into it.
Well, it kind of originated, and there was these two gentlemen, and what they did is they started the very first furry con, but before that, they had a chance to basically go to the science fiction conventions, and they found their own kind of niche of people who liked animal people. It's really as simple as just sort of an interest in anthropomorphs. And then they started their own con, and then they
wait
pop
a
up all
second.
over the world.
What word did you just say? What?
Anthropomorphs?
Anthropomorphic.
Anthropomorphic.
You're going to have to layman's terms that for us, Khord.
Animal people.
Okay. Not to be confused with the Animorphs books. Do you remember those?
Animal books?
Animorphs. Am I the only one that read these stupid books called Animorphs? Where it was basically Power Rangers, but their superhero power was that they could turn into an animal. I thought you'd be all over that, Khord.
Oh, I was all over it. I gotta say, they really helped me sharpen my nails.
Okay, so sorry, I totally interrupted you, but I just wanted to know that word.
So are you saying that the furry culture stemmed a little bit from cosplay?
Well, it really came from even just the basic concept of what happens when you combine an animal and a person. So if you really think about it, if you go by the direct definition of furry, you could argue that Mickey Mouse is a furry, or even the Sphinx is a furry. You could really go back that far.
Wow.
So then, by that logic, it is definitely not always sexual, which is what I think a lot of lay people automatically lump it into leather, BDSM. Oh, you're a furry, you're a freak in the bedroom, right? And it's not always the case.
Not at all. No, if you just go under the direct definition, it's anthropomorphs. It's interest in animal people. That is really universal, all ages. In regards to the whole fetish sexuality part of it, yeah, there is a part of the fandom, absolutely, that's into that. But if you go to the Trekkies, they like to hang out with pictures of, I don't know, different Trekkie characters getting it on. And so there's a section of every fandom which is adult, but I guess people kind of are more interested in the fetish part of it because that was voted as the most popular CSI episode of all time.
Was it really?
Yes, just look it up. Yeah, absolutely.
And it's so funny because that was I've watched CSI for years and years and years, and that is always the one episode, that one and the one with the man babies.
Yeah.
Those are the two that always stick in my head, and maybe it is because people have a fascination with these fetish subcultures.
Yeah.
Now, I'd say, to get really scientific, I'd say this is kind of like confirmation bias. Basically, it's like, oh, you're a part of one of those fetishes. Oh, no, I'm not. Oh, that's exactly what a fetishist would say.
Right.
It's circular logic. And so furries have been trying to escape that stereotype for so long, and it's all I could say is it is a family-friendly environment, and yeah, there's a section, but I believe it very strongly as a parent. I've got some kittens. That there should always be a very stringent segregation between the adult culture and the family-friendly culture.
So when you said this, and we were looking at your Facebook page, and one of the posts you put on January 23rd, I believe, was that you have adopted new kittens, or you have new kittens, and that you're going to be... What'd you say? I'm not going to be performing?
Here's the post. I just had a second kitten on January 2nd. I'll be a house cat more and more now. Gotta groom and feed the youngins. Performing will have to wait.
What does that mean?
Oh, well, I have exactly as it says. I have a kitten. I have 2 kittens. I'm a proud daddy cat. Yep.
And are you talking like actual offspring, or is this like, I'm gay, so I associate a lot of things with drag culture. So like sometimes when you help a young drag queen come out, you become their drag mother or drag, So is that what you mean? Like you introduce new people to furry culture, or you mean actual offspring?
Actual offspring.
Oh,
real offspring.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Right now, my youngest is 1, and my second youngest is 3. They're the cutest little boys you've ever seen.
Cute.
So what do you do with these kittens?
Oh, we'd go on a dog walk.
What? Wait, you go on a dog walk with kittens?
Well, you see, the way it should work is cats should have all control over these ugly, drooling things we call dogs, and that's the perfect world.
Oh, and you've made it happen in your household.
Oh, yeah, it's so much fun, walking like, that's mine, you're mine, you do what I say, because cats rule the world.
So when you talk about furries in general, are all mascots, if they're presenting as an animal, are they a furry?
In a kind of a way, like, yeah and no, absolutely. I mean, it's up for debate for sure, because as you know, when it comes to words, a lot of times they're defined by cultures. So
right.
If you ask one furry, what is a furry, they'll have a different answer. But I like to go to WikiFur. Like, that's right, we have our own furry wiki, and that has a really nice definition.
Okay.
You do have a bunch of terms within the furry dome.
Tons.
And so what are some of the most, like if you were to do a Furry 101 sort of course, what are some of the terms that we should know about when it comes to furry culture?
Now, the number one that I would love to talk about, and this is to help get into that trying to separate the adult culture with the family-friendly culture. Fursuits, by definition, they are not sex anything. They're not associated with sex whatsoever. People don't have sex in fursuits at all.
Well, it'd be kind of difficult, wouldn't it?
Well, here's the thing. There is another section called mersuits. So the adults that have sex in costumes in the fandoms have mersuits, and then the family-friendly ones are fursuits. So again, this gets to the point of segregate the adult culture and the family-friendly culture.
Those mersuits, they must have a huge dry cleaning bill. Like I'm telling you, wow.
So one of my questions was, where does the line between cosplay and fetish start? But I guess the answer is there isn't really a line. It's just what you're personally into.
Well, let's see. We were talking about terminology before, right? So yeah. So again, the line is very clearly cut in the center. If it's an adult sex thing, it's a mersuit. If it's not, then it's a fursuit.
All right.
So that's the line there. But when it comes to cosplay, that's its own thing. I mean, it's like it. It's very much like it. But the thing with cosplay is it centers around copyrighted characters that are meant to represent like businesses and stuff. But the thing about fursonas, keyword, are you studying?
Fursonas.
But the thing with like what I'm wearing, this is a one-of-a-kind head, and it's meant to represent me. So that is the difference between cosplaying and fursuits. Fursuits it's a way to represent oneself, not a way to represent some sort of copywritten character.
How long have you been Khord Kitty for?
I've been Khord Kitty since 2009.
Oh, wow.
Wow, 11 years.
And how did you realize, or what was it where you realized that Khord Kitty needs to be its own person and you are going to live your life as Khord Kitty?
Its own cat, Jenna, not person.
Sorry,
its own
cat.
Well, just like all the other furries, we all very slowly discovered it, mostly through the internet, sometimes through word of mouth, but I discovered it through the internet. And I saw it and I was like, oh, this sounds like something cool. And then I met somebody who told me about, oh, guess what? You go to school just few blocks away from a furry con. And I was like, no way. And I had a chance to go to a Further Confusion in San Jose. It was right next to my college, and I was like, wow, this is the coolest thing ever.
What is a furry convention like? Like, if you could describe, imagine being a virgin fur that walks in for the first time.
Like the one Jenna wears
like,
in the winter.
I don't know what you're talking about. It's been a long time. But you walk in for the first time. What are you going to see?
What you're going to see is so much fur and fluff, but you're also going to see a lot of really creative people, photographers, and most importantly, a lot of very confused hotel guests.
Because they are massive. Fur conventions are huge. There's multiple. Like you said, how many have you been to? 50?
Yeah, about 51 altogether. Yep.
Wow.
Now, what is the difference between a furry and a brony? Because bronies are a big deal now, too. I think they've even got their own cons.
Well, just like with the cosplaying, bronies, it's maybe like if you were to maybe put two plants next to each other, a furry plant next to a cosplay plant, maybe in between, they would crossbreed and make brony, kind of. Because what bronies do is they do, like furries, they do make some original characters, but sometimes they don't, and they just go around saying, I'm Pinkie Pie, I'm Pinkie Pie. So it's kind of similarly.
I listened to a recent Howard Stern interview at a brony convention, and a lot of them talked about liking cutie pie and so pie, and there was a lot of pies up in there.
I love pie. So it's same, different is what you're saying.
Kind of, but okay. I'll tell you from I've been to a BronyCon. It's not my thing, and the reason being is because what attracts me to the furry fandom is the creativity. Actually, the biggest reason I go to furry cons is the fursuit dance competitions. It's the coolest thing you've ever seen in your life. So everyone dresses up in animal costumes, and then we dance, and then the judges are like, yay, nay, and we get first place, second place, third place. But it's the ultimate act of creativity because it's an original character with an original backstory, an original dance mix, and then they have an original choreography to go along with it. So to me, that creativity is kind of not necessarily connected to all cosplayers or all bronies.
What is a furry's relationship with mascots? Because there seems to be a lot of things in common. I mean, especially when you talk about the dance situation, there's a lot of mascots that go and perform their own dances and, entertain a lot of people. So what's the biggest difference between those two?
Well, as I said before, it has to do with what it represents. So this is a representation of my inner self. And then a mascot, it's a representation of a entity.
Or like a business. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
So one's more personal and the other's more corporate in a sense.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
A common misconception that I read in preparing for this interview, Khord, is that furries actually want to be animals, and that is not true.
Well, every furry is like its own magical snowflake. So you have to kind of ask each one to know, do all furries want to be animals? That's up for debate. You have to ask each one. There's some that are like, oh, sure. Some that are like, no way. And for me personally, I know that it would probably shorten my lifespan by a lot. I mean, so I'm like, I'd like to go to a lot more furry cons. So I'd say let's hold off on the animal thing for now. Yeah.
Are there any animals that are like off limits? Like, as long as the animal has fur, it's up for being a furry?
No, there's no animals that are off limits. I mean, heck, if you go to the chairman of one of the largest furry cons in Pittsburgh, Anthrocon, his persona is a cockroach. So it just shows you could do anything.
Gross.
Oh,
Why would you choose that?
cockroaches are cool though because they can survive anything, including a nuclear blast. Did you know that? Cockroaches never die. Never die.
Ugh.
Absolutely. And as you know by Cats the Musical, they're delicious.
Have you seen the Cats movie?
Yes, absolutely.
It had a lot of hate.
What'd you think?
A lot of people didn't like it.
Well, after I washed my eyes out with bleach, it was just fine after that.
Oh, boy.
Are you sure this isn't Jesse as Khord Kitty right now? Because you guys have a lot of similarities in what you would say.
Well, we're both funny and fabulous. What can I tell you? But you know what? What did people expect from that Cats movie? It's Cats. It's going to be cheesy and campy and outrageous. So I don't know why everyone's hating on it. I still haven't seen it, but maybe after I watch it, I'll understand.
So when it came into the early years of you discovering that you do have Khord Kitty as a part of you as a person, how did you know Khord Kitty before you became Khord Kitty, or did you get into being a furry first and then develop your Khord Kitty? I don't know if that makes sense. Yeah.
Well, my persona, it was very much, this might sound silly, but like I saw this little flash animation with this cat who was playing a video game, and I thought it was really cute. And it was the first time I saw heterochromia, and I was like, oh, that's so. I just felt like, I mean, it really comes down to feeling. It's like, I mean, just think about what's your favorite animal, and that might be your persona. You never know.
Right. I also have to ask you, because as a girl who loves clothes, how much does your costume?
Whoa.
Or we're not going to call it a costume. I don't mean any offense by that. But
Fursuit.
For your entire fur personality, how much does that run you?
Well, when I purchased my first full fursuit in 2014, it cost just $1,000, which is actually a really huge discount.
But now it's more expensive because more people are becoming furries, and it's a larger, I guess you could call it a
culture.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And this head by itself cost me about, I think, $700 to $800. Yep.
I mean, it's good quality. I mean, that's the real deal. And you're going to have that forever, right? I mean, it's not like it's a Halloween costume.
Right.
Does it get hot, though? Like, are you soaked with sweat under there?
No, you get used to it.
Yeah. How do you breathe? Because you sound crystal. Like anytime I've worn a mascot head once or twice in my life, it's like nobody can hear you. You can't breathe, but you're coming through crystal clear. Not that this isn't your real head or anything, but come on. So, how are you breathing right now? Okay.
Oh,
you're doing all right?
I'm breathing just fine. I'm breathing out of my mouth. Doi.
Okay. Sorry. Jeez, I asked the obvious questions.
I like you.
Some might say I'm a bit catty.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Are you? Because I read, again, one of the things I read is that furries are always friendly. That's the thing. I know you can be a little catty, but you're always generally friendly and nice to people, and that's why people love furries. And in fact, some of you even volunteer at hospitals. Is that true?
Oh, absolutely. I volunteered at a hospital. Yeah. No, absolutely. Like, sometimes we just, but to say that all furries are nice, that's a bit of a stretch, because this is like a representation of me on the inside. Yeah, I'm a little catty and but I could be a little mean, and that's okay.
That's why we love you, Khord.
Jesse mentioned Halloween not too long ago, which is his favorite holiday.
Love it. It's the gay Christmas. What do you want? Yeah.
Now, what is a Halloween like for a furry?
Halloween is like we don't even have to buy a costume. We can put a costume over our costume if we want.
Is that what you do? Does Khord Kitty go out as Khord Kitty as Batman?
Well, I just go out as Khord Kitty, and some people are like, "Oh, look at the furry," and then I go all cat-like, and it's fun.
Yeah, I guess it's the one day. They say Halloween's the one day of the year the dead can come back to the earth. Well, it's the one day a year that furries can walk around without people looking twice, right?
Exactly. It's like we're the normal ones.
You're the normal ones on Halloween. In fact, the cool ones, because your costume is amazing. That's what people think, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Some
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Of some very courageous furries. They'll go out in fursuit in public all the time. Sometimes they'll film it and put it on YouTube, and they're heroes. I don't know how they do it, but it's always
So you don't go outside other than to conventions or to your own events. You don't wear your furry
Fursuit.
You don't wear it out in public ever?
only at fur meets. Now, fur meets, okay, here's another term. Fur meets are when a bunch of furries they gather up, but it's too small to be considered a convention. And if I didn't explain before, fursona is like a furry persona. So that's like your own personal expression of yourself, basically.
Cool.
So when you meet up at these fur meetings, what do you do? What does it involve?
A lot of, socialization. Sometimes people are actually the way how to say hi in the fandom is a big hug.
So this is basically almost like the Barney show from back in the day. This is
that's
a
vibe.
very feel-good vibe, a very loving and accepting, and I love you, you love me, we're a happy family.
Is that a good summary?
In my opinion, I think everyone's pretty nice, but we're also very, very accepting. So you'll find a lot of people who are kind of used to being rejected in society. Maybe people who have a mental disability, or maybe people who maybe have been rejected for being either the color of their skin or their sexuality. So you're going to find people of all types of variety. All over the place, and we very much we're kind of like a refuge for everybody who has ever felt rejected in society.
Is that what drew you towards the furry life? Was that you got to be the person you always wanted to be?
Oh, no. I just what drew me to it was that I could be a little kitty, and outside. Outside of this mask, I am the one quiet guy at work that no one talks to, that just sort of stays in a corner, minds their own business, and is super boring. So this lets me be unboring. Yay!
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I read that also a large segment, there's a big crossover between the LGBTQ community and furry culture. And I know that's true with Comic-Con and other sort of traditionally geek market type things. And I find that interesting. Why do you think that is?
Well, because the two people who found the very first FurryCon originally, they were a gay couple, and they did advertise in different gay establishments. And that's kind of, that was a big foundation of it. So it really, in a weird way, the furry community somehow got intertwined with the gay, bi, transgender community.
Do you think it always has to do with acceptance and just being accepted for who you are?
I believe that's a big part of it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We're like a refuge for the people who kind of felt rejected in society, and because when we accept everybody, and there have been times there was this one mother who went up to me and she was crying. She was like, my little girl, she wouldn't talk to anyone, and she was too shy and she wouldn't even speak. And now that she's in a furry costume, she's meeting everyone and just doing all that stuff. And I was like, yeah, that's kind of an amazing phenomenon that happens.
So there's little young furries too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, tons of them.
Yeah, you know what I'm realizing, even in just 5 minutes of talking to Khord, is that it very much is more on the oh gosh, I don't want to say costume like it's a bad thing, but it's more on the family-friendly mascot costumey side of things than the fetish sex side of things. And coming into this, I probably would have thought it was more on the fetish side, to tell you the truth, like a lot of lay people, I'm sure.
Yeah, it all comes down to that. It comes down to the segregation, which part are you trying to look for? And absolutely. I mean, true. I'd say there's probably a big bias on Google Images. If you're looking for Google Images, it'll only show you whatever, scantily clad, sexual, whatever. But no, it's really the main purpose of the whole thing is self-expression and just showing a part of yourself and using creativity.
What do you think the split is, if you had to say, between the horny ones and the family-friendly ones? Is it 50-50? Well,
to be quite honest, probably less our Probably more are on the and the reason probably more are a bit more adult, and the reason why that is because, and they did surveys about this, the mass majority of the furry fandom are young men, and well, young men are young men.
Okay.
That's the best way to put it.
That excites. Maybe I'm a furry, Jenna. What animal would I be?
Well,
I
you're
don't know.
very theatrical, and you do love
Yeah.
costumes and masks.
Maybe I'd be a fox.
And well, I think this can kind of lead us to a good question: is what do you think are some huge misunderstood things of furry fandom, of the furry world? What do you think are 3 things that everyone assumes? Would you call them lay people?
Yeah.
What I call them vanilla lay people. What they misinterpret about your culture and your society.
Well, most importantly is this is not a sex toy. This is something I hug people with.
Oh.
And when it comes to like adult stuff, those are mersuits. That's a little different for sure. So that's one big misconception. And then the second one is that furry is a fetish. It is not a fetish. It is a celebration of anthropomorphs, animal people, all that fun stuff. And yes, there's an adult side to it, but hey, with the other fandoms, like with Star Wars, yeah, you're going to find Star Wars fetish wear somewhere if you look hard enough.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Do for the mersuits, is it spelled like MER? Like, I'm not asking because I want to Google it later, but when I hear mersuits, I think of those things you wear swimming to be like a mermaid. You know what I mean?
MUR.
Okay.
And what differs from a mersuit compared to from Khord Kitty's suit?
Well, if you have a full costume, with the mersuits, there are modifications. So, like maybe a zipper in the front or a zipper in the back. Something like that.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Or a strategically placed hole. That is
Right.
another.
Do you have any
Or 2 or 3.
Do you have any friends that are into the kinky side of furry life?
Absolutely. Yeah, they're all over the place. And yeah, absolutely. And I think they're, again, mostly mass majority of them are young men, and they are, what could I say? They're a lot of very nice people all over the place. And yeah, I think that's the best way to put it.
There's no mersuit versus non-mersuit furries, is there?
Well, there's a lot of furries out there that they just do not want to be involved with the
Or
adult part of it.
associated at all.
And they like me believe that there should probably be a segregation. Like, for example, right now there's a new furry convention. I think it's called Sin City Murcon. I think it's something like that in Las Vegas right now, and it's an adults only one. And again, it's all about trying to establish the segregation that I think is healthy for everybody.
And you would never go to one just out of curiosity?
Let's see. For me, the main reason I go to any of them is for the dance competitions. So probably I would love to go to the Las Vegas one because they have a fursuit dance competition, and that's the biggest reason I like to go. That's my favorite stuff.
Are you a dancer?
Yes.
And is this like K-pop style? Because I feel like there's a lot of, I'm part Japanese, and I feel like there's a lot of correlation between like the Asian anime and cosplay sort of life and with you, especially even the way you're speaking. Whenever you speak, thank you. There we go. Is there a lot of relation between the Asian culture and being a furry?
Absolutely, and I think it has to do with the fact that so many furries love anime, and if you really think back in history, the big reason why there was a lot of Japanese cartoons with big eyes were they were influenced by Disney, and then they kept going with the big eyes, and then American artists started copying anime style, and it basically the cultures really feed into each other. And the reason I found out about the maker who made this fursuit head was I looked at a video from a Japanese fur con, and for sure this is called a kimono style head. So these are very much or a kimo style head, and these are for sure associated with the Japanese style.
Well, you are like a walking Japanimation to me.
Those eyes.
Like everything in your mannerisms and everything. So what different levels of heads are there? You said you have, sorry, what was it? What type of head?
I think it's Kino.
Okay.
Chemo style. There's going to be a lot of people in the comments going like, "No, that's not it. It's something totally different." But I think it's
it's okay. We're learning
chemo.
too.
Yes. So what other style heads are there?
I think it's called KEMO, chemo. So the
Okay.
other styles are it's more realistic. So those ones that look a lot, it's self-explanatory. And then the other head would be more cartoony. But there's also different levels of cartoony. There is a cartoony with kind of like flat eyes. There's a cartoony with follow me eyes. So yeah, there's lots of different ones and lots of makers that basically what happens is, like, let's say if you wanted to go to a fur con in your fursuit, you would commission a maker. You would give them so and so much money, and then they would make you a fursuit and send you a fursuit, and that's basically it. So there's a huge market for fursuit makers, and they are all over the place. Always
and is
offering
everyone individual? There's no two the same.
That's right. Like if you get a fursuit commission from one artist and then from another fursuit maker, they're not going to look the same. They're going to look different.
I have a random question. If you were to create a furry out of Jesse and I, which animals would we be?
I can't say that because, well, okay, so how about this? You're either a cat or you are the wrong persona. That's basically the only two choices.
Okay.
He's biased. Okay, so back to the sex. When you mentioned a lot of young men are into it, I read that as well. 75 to 89% of furries are men. And I was floored by that because I actually would have guessed that they were women. I thought a lot of anime loving girls like our friend Kim and Lydia,
right.
and I thought that they would be women, but to find out they were men was quite surprising to me. But the real question I have is, for your friends that are into the adult side of it, how do they do it in their suits? And what attracts them to an animal, a human animal? Like, because I know it's not a bestiality thing. I don't even want to go there. But it's like, at some point, you must have an attraction to a Halloween costume, or is it a mask thing? Like, what is the appeal?
Or is it the character?
I think it's the ability to choose who you are. Like, I mean, we were born, like most people, well, all people were born to be people, but what if you could choose who you are? What if you could choose your personality? What if you could choose your height, weight,
appearance?
everything?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that type of customization of basically making your identity associated with your personality is really, there is a huge attraction to that. People. And true, I think some people might be able to argue, like, this is a big debate, but like, okay, maybe, yeah, there's some furries that they don't like their body and they wish they were real furries, yeah, but I think for the most part, that's the minority. This is really all about expressing yourself, and the way you could tell the difference between like a furry and non-furry. A non-furry will say, oh, you've got a mask to cover yourself, and then a furry would say, oh, that's how you are on the inside, and you have a human mask.
Yeah. Our puppy from last week said the same thing, actually, is that this is expressing the personality that's actually hidden on the inside of your human shell.
Absolutely. Like, this is not hiding anything. This is, I have a human costume that I wear to work every day. That's really what it's all about.
Wow, that's an interesting way to put it. Do you see yourself only being Khord Kitty for the rest of your life, or would you have other characters that come into play or identify as other... maybe you'll be, I hate to say it, a dog. Or, a dragon.
To be a drooler. Well, I do have another fursona called a Gorfin, and Gorfin is a Dutch angel dragon, and those are basically... they're these cute little things, but my Dutch angel dragon looks like a devil. So I kind of like that. I think it's I like to say it like this. So Khord Kitty is basically what would happen if you put the devil inside of an angel. And then my other persona is what happens if you put an angel inside of the devil. That's the best way to put it.
Oh, that's nice. But still friendly. You're friendly all the time, Khord.
And you're not limited to one persona.
Fursona. I got to be totally correct.
Thank you. You're not limited to one fursona.
Yeah.
Do you know anyone who has multiple fursonas? Like 5, 6?
Like literally, like I think 2 days ago, I was at the house with another furry who he has almost 100 fursuits. So, oh my goodness, yeah.
How does he keep up with them?
He's a fantastic maker, and I think his name's Siege, and oh my gosh, very, very good, very talented. And no, there's an unlimited amount of fursuits that you could, or there's an unlimited amount of fursuits and an unlimited amount of fursonas that you could retain for sure. I mean, think of it like maybe you in a bad mood, maybe that's one persona. Maybe you in a good mood is another one. So it's kind of like,
we don't want to see Jenna's bad persona. That dragon you talked about comes to mind.
While we're speaking of personas, though, I have to ask you about yours. Is there a reason for the black streak down your forehead and the 2 different colored eyes?
Well, the different colored eyes, it's just the whole fact that, well, actually, my eyes in real life, when I ask some people, they say it's blue, and other people say it's green, so heterochromia.
There we go. And what about the streak down your forehead?
Well, my name, Khord Kitty, is kind of like a play on word type thing. So, because it's spelled Khord. Well, the reason why it's spelled that way is because the concept is chord, like piano chord kitty, like Chord.
Oh, it's like, yes.
Yeah.
So if you look on my back, that is the black note on a piano.
Oh.
Cool. Now, what is the beef with Tony the Tiger? Have you heard about this, Khord?
It's really simple. When you are representing a big conglomerate, you do not want to be associated with that adult side of the fandom. It's trying to, what Tony the Tiger was trying to do was what a lot of furries are also trying to do, make a segregation between the adult side and the family-friendly side.
Yeah,
so that's basically what
you ever hear when it's like some guys that are really homophobic or like they end up turning gay themselves? It's like that's what comes to mind with Tony the Tiger. Like, thou doth protest too much, Tony, because there's other mascots that don't give a shit about furries. Why does Tony care so much?
Oh, well, because people kept sending him the dirty art on Twitter, and he was
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So he got fed up.
And he wasn't like, they're great.
No, I mean, you gotta understand. Like, let's say if you're leading the Twitter page of a corporation, you cannot be seen endorsing any sort of adult stuff. You know, that would get you fired. That would be bad publicity. So basically, yeah, Tony the Tiger was like block, 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 block.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a horrible misconception that if you are associated with furries, that automatically it's, sexual deviance?
Yeah, that stereotype, it's one of those things that like furries are, we really want to kind of try to escape it. I mean, there's some furries that are more cynical. They're like, oh yeah, that's what it's all about. Okay, everybody is a dirty birdie anyway, So So you'll find a lot of opinions all over the place, but I would say for sure it is a stereotype. And just like with all stereotypes, yes, there is a little bit of truth in it, but it's a big fat no, that's not true. It's not to say all furries are fetishists is just a blank lie.
And that's why we have people like you on our podcast to break down those barriers.
Well, you mentioned a lot of opinions in the community. Is there a lot of drama? Because you seem like pretty friendly people, and you mentioned that that's sort of the through line is being nice and love and kumbaya, but is there a lot of that bickering within the community like there are in so many of these subcultures where you use the wrong word or you have the wrong headpiece?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, furry drama is certainly a real thing, and it happens all the time. But I made a Twitter post about it. I think the best way to put it is what happens when somebody, like, let's say if you say something, and then I say, oh, you said that because you hate this, or you don't like that, and I basically question your intentions. That's, I think, a big source of furry drama. People they don't have faith in their brother to know that they have a good agenda. I think that's a really big thing about it, so... Yeah.
And it's very individual, right? Like it doesn't necessarily, there is no rule book with stuff like this. It's a personal journey, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a personal journey. And I mean, ultimately true. There's actually some people who leave the fandom because they have a bad experience with one or two or a few furries. And it happens all the time. But it really comes down to you're going to meet a lot of people in life. And you could bet there's a ton of people who hate both of you. They hate you so badly. And the best thing you could do is just ignore them because they're not your biggest fans. And your biggest fans are going to be the ones that you want to share your love with, for sure. You
know what, Khord? That is advice we already follow. So, you know.
Amen. Yes. Before we let you go, if someone is thinking about getting involved in the furry fandom and the furry community, what are 3 pieces of advice you have for beginners?
For beginners, the first thing you want to do is Google Fursona template. So Fursona template. So there's people out there that they made these references, and you need these references if you're going to commission art or commission a fursuit. But there's basically these black and white drawings of like maybe a tiger or a dog or a cat, and they're online. So if you just Google Fursona template, and then what you want to do is you want to put them in maybe MS Paint or something, and make your own colors, make your expression of your just make an expression of yourself. Actually, the one thing that I like to do, if you're not really a fine-tuned artist, is if you go into MS Paint and zoom in really, really closely, you could do very intricate details without any skills. So I highly recommend everyone who wants to be a furry, Google Fursona template, start making those colors, because once you have your reference, you could commission 1 million pictures, or you could commission a fursuit. That's the step one for sure.
Did you design your own?
Yep. I made a written design of it, and then somebody put it to life, and I was like, yep, that's me. Yep.
Cool.
Also,
so that's advice.
Oh, go ahead. Go with your next advice. I said 3.
Let's see.
3 pieces of
and
advice.
And the advice number 2, with fursuit dance competitions, don't be deceived. Fursuit dance competitions are not for necessarily only dancers. They're for everybody. Like, there are people who don't know how to dance, and they get on stage, and then they have fun. And it's amazing. And that's the biggest appeal of fursuit dance competitions for me, is that they don't just take dancers. They take anybody who wants to try. So I highly recommend everybody who wants to be a furry audition for a fursuit dance competition, even if you don't know a thing about dance, and it will be the coolest learning experience of your life, for sure.
What's your type of dance? What's your specialty?
Oh, I like to do robot. Kitty.
Robot kitty.
Nice.
And one last piece of advice.
The last piece of advice is, whatever you do, if you are not a kitty, your fursona sucks.
Oh! There's the cattiness coming on out. Fur kitty.
Fur kitty.
Khord Kitty. Fur Khord Kitty. How can we find you on social media if people want to keep up with you?
Oh, well, you could just Google my name, KHORD KITTY.
One last question, though. The Masked Singer, is that doing good for your community or bad for your community?
Ooh.
I think it's doing nothing at all, really.
For any community.
Nothing.
Thank you.
I will say this. Big shout out to Ellen DeGeneres. She made a parody of it called The Masked Dancer, and it's really good. It looks a lot like a fursuit dance competition. It's very close. Well,
you hear that, Ellen? She listens to our podcast all the time.
Yeah, we know her.
Reach out to Khord Kitty. Thank you so much for, spending some time with us and enlightening us, and, Yeah, we appreciate you telling your story.
And I think this takes a lot of the stigma out of fur culture, and I think a lot of people listening to this are going to realize that they're not so pervy after all.
Right.
Oh, can I do a little shout out?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so 2 years ago, I wrote an original musical called The Dragon Within. I want everyone to watch it.
Where can we find it? The Dragon Within.
Yep, you just Google Fursuit Musical, and it's there.
There we go. Fursuit Musical.
Coming to Broadway soon.
Google it.
The Dragon Within.
All right, Khord Kitty, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you sharing your story.
Cheers.
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 Meow.